The Hidden Enemy, a journey through the world of infections and the silent threat of toxoplasmosis. In a quiet neighborhood nestled between the hills and a bustling city, lived a curious teenager named Ellie. She was the kind of girl who asked questions nobody dared to, always diving into science books, online documentaries, and even her grandmother's old health journals. It was during one of her long reading sprees that she stumbled upon a word that seemed both foreign and fascinating. Toxoplasmosis. "What on earth is that?" she muttered, pushing her glasses up her nose and typing it into her search engine. What she discovered would change not just the way she looked at food and cleanliness, but the way she perceived invisible threats all around her. Toxoplasmosis, she learned, is a disease caused by a parasite named Toxoplasma gondii. It's not the most famous infections, certainly not as dramatic as a zombie virus in a TV series, but its quiet, stealthy nature made it all the more alarming. It could be lurking in undercooked meat, hiding in unwashed vegetables, or even nestled in the fur of a friendly cat. For most people, the infection passes unnoticed. But for pregnant women or individuals with weakened immune systems, it can be devastating. As she read on, Ellie came across a warning that stuck with her. Beware of infections. Wash food thoroughly. Avoid undercooked meat and maintain good hygiene to prevent toxoplasmosis and other diseases. It sounded simple enough common sense advice that echoed the lessons of her health class. But as Ellie would soon discover, there's a world of complexity behind these seemingly straightforward words. A history of hidden harm. Ellie dove into medical history to understand how humans had interacted with infections through the centuries. She read about the Black Plague, tuberculosis, and the discovery of penicillin. What amazed her most was how many infections spread not through dramatic bites or accidents, but through everyday activities, touching, breathing. Infections often begin silently. A careless rinse of lettuce, a medium-rare hamburger, or an afternoon of gardening without gloves could be all it takes. And yet, people rarely considered these activities dangerous. Our modern lives had distanced us from the raw realities of the natural world. Meat came wrapped in plastic. Vegetables were sprayed and polished. Cats were fluffy friends, not carriers of parasites. But reality, Ellie learned, had teeth, sometimes microscopic ones. She started noticing habits in her own household. Her dad liked his steak, rare, pink, and juicy. Her younger brother would grab fruit and bite into it without washing. Even Ellie had occasionally played with their neighbor's cat and then eaten chips without washing her hands. None of it seemed risky before. That night, she stood at the dinner table and repeated the phrase to her family, firm and clear. Beware of infections. Wash food thoroughly. Avoid undercooked meat and maintain good hygiene to prevent toxoplasmosis and other diseases. Her mother chuckled. "Ellie, sweetie, that sounds like a warning label on a salad." Ellie smiled. "Well, maybe it should be." The invisible war in the kitchen determined to turn awareness into action. Ellie transformed their kitchen into a battlefield. She printed out diagrams of parasites and bacteria and pinned them to the refrigerator. She made a checklist of food hygiene steps and insisted on daily compliance. It was quirky at first, but soon everyone started following her lead. Meat was cooked to safe temperatures. They even got a meat thermometer. Fruits and vegetables were soaked and scrubbed. Hands were washed before and after preparing meals. Even the cat across the street became a bit of a celebrity, though now approached only with gloves. Her parents teased her, calling her General Ellie of the kitchen army. But deep down, they appreciated the change. One day, Ellie's biology teacher invited her to present a talk to the class. She crafted a presentation titled The Microscopic Menace: How to Outsmart Everyday Infections. Using humor, horror stories, and real science, she painted a picture of how diseases like toxoplasmosis were much closer than anyone thought, and how small habits could make a big difference. At the end, she left them with a haunting reminder: beware of infections. Wash food thoroughly. Avoid undercooked meat and maintain good hygiene to prevent toxoplasmosis and other diseases. It became something of a motto among her classmates. Some even used it to mock their cafeteria meatballs. The global context. Ellie's curiosity didn't stop there. She wanted to understand how other countries dealt with foodborne illnesses and hygiene. In Japan, she learned, cleanliness is practically a national value. In Sweden, undercooked meat is rare due to strong public health guidelines. Meanwhile, in parts of Latin America and Africa, toxoplasmosis rates were significantly higher due to climate and sanitation factors. The deeper she went, the more she realized that awareness was a luxury. In places with limited access to clean water or refrigeration, people couldn't afford the meticulous food safety practices Ellie was promoting. For some, every meal carried a risk. This sparked something in her, a desire, not just to educate, but to advocate. She began working on a project for the school science fair that doubled as a community health campaign. Partnering with local clinics and stores, she created flyers and short videos aimed at young families, reminding them in simple language: beware of infections, wash food thoroughly, avoid undercooked meat, and maintain good hygiene to prevent toxoplasmosis and other diseases. The campaign spread faster than she expected. Parents shared the videos on Facebook. One clinic even adopted her flyer for their prenatal visits. The personal turn: months later, Ellie received a letter from her aunt in another state. She was pregnant and had recently learned about toxoplasmosis at a prenatal class. "I was so surprised to hear your voice in that handout they gave me," her aunt wrote, attaching a photo of Ellie's quote in bold letters. It dawned on Ellie then that what had started as an intellectual curiosity had become something real. She had helped someone she loved avoid harm, simply by spreading awareness. Reflections of a young advocate, now 16. Ellie sat on her porch, sipping tea and watching the neighborhood kids play. She wasn't a doctor or a researcher, but she had become a protector in her own way. She understood that some enemies don't wear armor or carry weapons. Some enemies are invisible, silent, and opportunistic, and the best defense? Knowledge, action, and a bit of soap and hot water. So, as she closed her notebook and stood up to make dinner, Ellie whispered to herself, almost like a mantra: beware of infections, wash food thoroughly, avoid undercooked meat, and maintain good hygiene to prevent toxoplasmosis and other diseases. She smiled. Maybe it did sound like a warning label, but maybe the world needed more of those.